Hi, I'm Randy Robison. This is Life Today TV. I'm here with the pastor of Mars Hill Church in Seattle, Mark Driscoll. He's also the author of many books, including A Call to Resurgence. Mark, it's great to have you
Yeah,
here.
it's good to be here with you, buddy. Thanks, man.
I got a lot of questions for you, but I'm gonna start by asking, how does someone make a dent in a culture like Seattle, where the gospel's not real popular these days?
Yeah, some refer to it as the People's Republic of Seattle. It's an interesting place. I actually grew up there, met my high school sweetheart, and then wife Grace there, so it's home for us. Historically, it's among the least church and most liberal cities in America. I think we recently won another award, most gay-friendly city in America. I think we beat San Francisco. We've legalized gay marriage. We've legalized marijuana. So it was weird. I was at a Seahawks playoff game, took my sons, and walking in and out, just smells like weed.
Oh, man.
Everybody's just smoking joints, celebrating outside. It's just it's a little different place to be. And so, yeah, the churches, the denominations, the seminaries, the Bible colleges, they never really made it there. They kind of hit the Northeast, went south through America and went through the Midwest and really never got up to the Northwest. So we're still pretty pre-Christian in a lot of ways. And so we started a Bible study there in 1996. Fast forward, it's a church of 15,000 on a typical Sunday recently. We've baptized a lot of people, about maybe 100 people a month, roughly, every month for the last 5 or 6 years, mainly single, college-educated, urban, unchurched, meeting Jesus, getting saved, getting their life together, getting off of pornography, getting out of sexual addiction and recovering from sexual assault, and then getting married and starting families. So it's wonderfully complicated in a very curious place.
Different than the Bible Belt, where I would think the whole approach has to be kind of different. What is your kind of underlying philosophy towards?
Yeah, I've always said since the beginning, I'm a missionary. And oftentimes we think of missionaries as, take someone and send them overseas to an extravagant people in an eccentric culture. Well, I got one of those in Seattle, So I see myself as a missionary, and so I try to think like a missionary. How do you understand the culture and the customs of the people? What would a church look like here that was faithful to the Bible but fit the culture of the people? So that's everything from music to language to dress to style. I'm a Bible teacher. I preach through books of the Bible, an hour a sermon, which is pretty crazy that people would come for that, but they do, because they don't have any history with the Bible. So like in the Bible Belt, everybody's like, oh, I've heard the story a million times. I went to camp, I heard it as a kid. Our people, it's like, there's an ancient Eastern book. And they're like, oh, that's fascinating. You just don't use the word Bible, and all of a sudden they're interested because they're all watching alien shows on Discovery Channel, So they're curious in that way, but they don't have any biblical background.
Is there any hostility towards you, towards the church?
Yeah, for sure.
Quite a bit.
For sure, yeah. You don't see a large church come into existence that's Bible-based in an area that historically is not Bible-based without, for every action, there's a reaction. And I tend to be a lightning rod for controversy. I'm trying to be more loving and gracious and more of a spiritual father as I get older. But just certain things that I believe, the Bible's true, hell is hot, forever's a long time, and Jesus is the answer. Just those things alone tend to get you in a certain amount of trouble.
It's gotten you in some trouble with people in the church.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For the people that are real left, I'm too right, and for the people that are real right, I'm too left. And so you can get in trouble both ways.
That's funny.
Yeah.
As my pastor says, just try to keep it between the ditches.
Exactly.
A Call to Resurgence. What is the resurgence that you're calling, and who are you calling to it?
Yeah, and for me, when we started in Seattle, I said, Lord, why do you have me here? I mean, there's not big churches, there's not a history of faith. Why am I here? I love the people there, and I love what God has called me to do, but why here? And then what I've seen is that the culture has trended in the direction that I've already been ministering in. So we've been a pro-gay city, and now America's trending pro-gay. We've been pro-drug legalization, and America's trending pro-drug legalization.
Just for the record, Texas is not.
Well, not officially, but I'm sure we could go for a walk and find some guy smoking a joint.
We can go down to Austin, yeah.
Yeah. They've all moved to Austin or Deep Ellum in Dallas, but there's pockets where the people gather. So as the culture's trended, it's trended to look more like the culture I've already been working in.
True.
And my argument is that Christendom is over, that The younger generations are either unchurched, they have no background, or they're de-churched. They used to go and want nothing to do with it. And so, we're not seeing singles, we're not seeing collegiates, we're not seeing young men show up to church in any large number. And the question is, are we going to have a funeral or a future? I mean, the culture's changed. The church isn't quite aware of it in some places. But you can look even generationally and life stage and say, man, what does our future look like? I mean, you can't think of a lot of churches you walk into and you're like, it's filled with young men who have a future. They're not there. They're gone. And even for young women who love Jesus, it's getting harder and harder to find a husband because the majority of Christians are women and they're wanting to marry, and there's even a shortage of guys that are worth spending your life with.
A lot of churches in the rest of the country are struggling with this issue of how do we reach that college age and even
singles,
the kids.
Young adult.
Yeah, I mean, and how do we not just recycle Christians through these churches?
Yeah.
How do we get new people in?
Yeah.
What would you, as someone who's done that successfully?
Yeah, it's a lot of things, but part of it is realizing for the first time in the nation's history, the majority of adults are single. So it used to be that the majority were married, so you'd build a church to appeal to married couples with kids. So it's kids ministry and student ministry, and you rack up all the programs. Today, if the majority are single and your service is at 9 a.m., they're like, I just went to bed, so 9 a.m. is not a real good thing for me. And you're like, and it's great for the whole family. You're like, I don't have a family, so I guess 9 a.m. for the family is not for me. And so even as churches present, and I'm married and I got 5 kids. I mean, I'm a family guy, but the majority of people aren't married with kids. So even thinking as a church, sometimes then it's like, well, let's do singles ministry, but there's no other plane in their life that they identify as single.
Yeah.
The guys are waiting until they're 30 to marry, gals late 20s, they've got a college degree, they're making good money, they're out enjoying their hobbies and their sexuality and living their life, and they're full-grown adults, and they don't want to be in some class defined by single. So it's not an attraction or a draw. So
good point.
For us, it's technology, getting the communication out. It's relationships, because most of them are moving and come from broken homes. Taking the eternal truths of the Bible and trying to communicate them to timely issues. And part of it is even curious things like service times. Some singles tend to like 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock. Some of our largest church services, I think we run 43 services in 15 locations across 5 states. So, with people's work schedules and stuff, even Sundays off and go to church, that's not their life. So you need to create even service slots that accommodate. But some of the largest services we got are like 7 o'clock at night with no childcare.
Interesting.
Because that's when they're going out.
A lot to think about.
Yeah.
And a lot for churches to learn from, I think. The last thing I want to ask you about is the conferences, the Resurgence Conferences that you're putting together. You're putting together a great group of speakers.
Yeah.
What are you trying to accomplish through that?
Yeah, Resurgence is a ministry of Mars Hill Church. We serve leaders. There's the website with the blogs. There's the podcast, which is recently debuted at #1 on iTunes and did really well. There's books that we publish, and that's kind of the manifesto for what we're trying to do. And the Resurgence Conference is for us bringing together what I call tribal leaders. I think Christianity is very tribalized. We're not a majority, we're a minority, and we can't afford to fight with one another. When you're in the majority, you can maybe afford that a little bit. When you're in the minority, you got to hang together. And so I like to bring in tribal leaders from different tribes to learn from, to love, to meet, to serve one another. And then their followers tend to have an ear open to hear somebody that otherwise they're maybe not familiar with. And part of that is I have a real heart for young leaders, 20s, early 30s, and I want to bring good, godly, Jesus-loving, Bible-believing influences into their life, maybe even outside of their tribe, to help them learn and grow. And learn to talk with one another instead of about one another, because sometimes we don't even know one another, so we don't understand one another. Yeah.
Very healthy. Just from my own experience, I've been kind of on all sides of it, and that's been one of the most beneficial things for me, is to get outside my bubble, hear how someone else thinks, what they emphasize, and I think it helps you grow as an individual spiritually. And certainly you get to meet a lot of people that good people that you wouldn't have known. So that's very cool, very cool. You mentioned the podcasting. Where can people get sermons, books?
MarsHill.com is the church, and theresurgence.com is the ministry for leaders. And so those are the two places you can go. I mean, everything's up on iTunes, and we give a lot of stuff away, and you can find it all there. Yeah. Thanks,
Very
buddy.
Cool. Very cool. Thanks for sitting down with us. Check out his websites. Check out his book, A Call to Resurgence. And you can watch Mark when he's on Life Today. If you missed that on TV, you can see it at lifetoday.org. Thanks again for sitting down with us.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.